If you were the leader of your nation's military and had to defend it against a world power like Russia, would you consider a drone from Turkey as one of your options? Most likely not, for obvious reasons. Turkey is not a name that rings a bell for nations famed for operational armed drones. However, Turkish-made Bayraktar Tb2 drones are changing the narrative. Do you want to know why? Then watch this video compiled by Military Technology Updates to the end. There is no doubt that you must have heard about the recent invasion of Ukraine by Russia, considering the dust it has gathered in the international community. Ukraine has been defying odds to keep the Russian military at bay despite worries that Russia would bully Ukraine to submission due to its status as a world power, like Stoke City in its heyday in the English Premier League. Many observers had expected that the war would be the opportunity Russia has been waiting for to flex the might of its military and devastating weapons. However, it has not been that straightforward so far. Indeed, Ukraine is punching beyond its weight, and it seems like a miracle. Yet what has also been shocking is the effectiveness of Turkey's Bayraktar Tb2 drones in the war. There is no doubt that Turkey's Bayraktar Tb2 drones have been famed for the decisive role they have played in various hostilities, such as in Syria, Libya, and Nagorno-Karabakh. However, many experts have doubted its proficiency when it matters, mainly when utilized against a world power like Russia. This conflict provided the perfect opportunity to test the integrity of this theory. Were TB2 drones able to replicate their success in Syria, Libya, and Nagorno-Karabakh against the Russians? Keep watching this video to find out. What are Bayraktar Tb2 drones? The length of the TB2 drone is 6.5 meters with a 12-meter wingspan. Its staying power of up to 24 hours is one of the best around, and it can travel as fast as 220 kilometers per hour. One of the selling points of these drones is also one of the reasons some observers doubt their capacity, and it is the fact that it is cheaper than most drones of similar description. Surprisingly, in the third week of February this year, footage released by the Ukrainian military during the weekend showed that TB2s were repelling Moscow's forces during an altercation between the two nations. Based on evidence from the video, the drones destroyed long Russian military columns in Kherson, leading to the loss of dozens of Russian lives and equipment. The footage is a welcome development for observers who are convinced that the drones would have similar impacts as they did in Syria, Libya, and Nagorno-Karabakh. However, it would be a shock for people who believe that drones would never survive a force with state-of-the-art defense systems and world-class electronic capabilities like Russia. What are the previous exploits of these drones? Turkish officials have claimed that the drones would be able to repel the Russian military. Before Russia attacked, people have cited the impressive records of the drone during the wars in Syria, Libya, and Nagorno-Karabakh as proof that they would be effective against the Russians. They reminded all who cared to listen that TB2s had made a mockery of the Pantsir air defense system when it couldn't destroy them. Yet, shockingly or interestingly, depending on your perception of the capability of these drones, they were effective against the almighty Russian military. When the video emanated on social media, many observers felt it was mere propaganda to give a false impression regarding how well the Ukrainian military was doing against the Russian force. However, many congratulated the Ukrainian army, especially after realizing that the drones were deployed several times successfully. The pictures of destroyed Russian vehicles and equipment gave those supporting the Ukrainian army positive vibes. Did the Ukrainians purchase these drones specifically to fight the Russians? Ukraine has purchased TB2 drones since 2019. In the last 3 years, the nation has purchased over 50 since then. Furthermore, through the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, Ukrainian authorities announced that they bought another unspecified number of TB2 drones to be deployed against the Russian army in the course of the conflict. Usually, people learn about the existence of certain weapons through media reports or when the countries against which they were deployed announce them. The Turkish company Bayraktar Technology developed the Bayraktar Tb2 drones. The company is owned by two brothers who started it in 1986. Since then, the company was grown into a stalwart in the arms manufacturing industry in Turkey. Interestingly, the chief technology officer of the company is Selçuk Bayraktar. Guess who he is? The son-in-law of Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Based on the company's estimation, its export increased 7 times between 2006 and 2021. This shows the massive recognition of the effectiveness of its products in the international market. According to media reports, the TB2 drones have business orders from over 16 countries, including Poland, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tunisia, and Azerbaijan. In addition, nations like Morocco and Qatar have also been credited with patronizing the company. When Poland bought 24 TB2 drones in 2021, it became the first NATO member to purchase them. In nations such as Libya, Iraq, and Syria, the TB2 drones have been deployed for over 420,000 hours. Many experts believe that Azerbaijan deployed these drones during its conflict with Armenia in 2020. It is also believed that the drone was used in an attack that recently killed 59 civilians in Tigray. Currently, the number of TB2 drones at the disposal of the Ukrainian military is not certain. Yet the success recorded so far with the aid of these drones make observers wonder whether this factor could play a critical role in the victory of the Ukrainians against the Russian military. Could the TB2 drones give the Ukrainian army a crucial advantage over the Russians? There are several reasons for optimism in this regard. Before we move on, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel, Military Technology Updates. Let's continue with the video. So are there reasons the Russians cannot get these drones? First, Ukraine and Turkey have a good relationship that technically makes Turkey a Ukrainian ally. This implies that the Russians are not likely to have access to the TB2 drones even if they desire to buy them, because the Turkish company will most likely deny them access. Theoretically, the company's chief technology officer is the son-in-law of Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who has had a great relationship with the Ukrainian government for years, making it unlikely that the Russians will have access to the TB2 drones. Also, the defense industry of Turkey and Ukraine has had a cooperation that has existed for years. Before the war began, the family of Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan was building a plant in Ukraine. Interestingly, Ukrainian companies are responsible for producing the engines of TB2 drones. Based on these factors, many experts and observers believe that the number of TB2 drones at the disposal of the Ukrainian army is way more than what is known. Are there reasons to doubt the sustainability of Turkey's support for Ukraine? There are other reasons to doubt the ability of Turkey to be faithful to Ukraine. One of them is the fact that Turkey has transactions with the Russians. For example, the nation purchased surface-to-air missiles, the S-400, from them. So despite supplying combat drones to the Ukrainian army, Turkey might still be forced to sell TB2 drones to the Russians if they require it, because they depend on them for some of their arms shipments. This is the fear of Daria Isachenko, a security and defense policy expert. According to her, Turkey will not be able to make its position clear on who to support between Ukraine and Russia because the decision will be rash. It is a decision that can have some grave economic and security consequences, which is why many countries worldwide have been careful to throw their weight behind Ukraine. No government wants to have an open hostility with the Russians. She explained that it is true that Russia cannot offer the Western alliance available to Turkey by supporting Ukraine. However, she cautioned that it would be rash for the Turkish government to scrap the impact of an open alliance against the Russians, which will make it difficult for Turkey to maintain its relationship of balance with the two nations if the war continues. Isachenko noted that Turkey had shown signs that it supports the Ukrainians by refusing to allow Russian warships to have access to its naval areas of control. Yet she is convinced that the Turkish government will not follow suit on Western sanctions against the former Soviet Union country. Isachenko explained that such a decision could lead to a reaction from Moscow, which would affect the Turkish economy, especially its construction, tourism, and wheat import sectors. Russia provides close to 70% of Turkey's wheat imports, and this is an essential consideration in this regard. Can TB2 drones really force the Russian army to retreat? Many observers support the Ukrainian army and hope that the TB2 drones can give the Ukrainian force an edge. Still, Wolfgang Richter thinks otherwise, a retired colonel in the German military. According to the military expert, a drone has a limited capacity because it is only capable of battling one target at a time. Therefore, he posited that the TB2 drones could only help the Ukrainians repel Russian tanks and artillery pieces. However, he commented that the drones would not have the same impact in ground combat, which is where the actual battle will be won or lost. According to Richter, there was a situation in the battle when 600 combat vehicles belonging to the Russians approached Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital, from 4 different directions. He pointed out that the TB2 drones would not be able to do much in such situations. Besides, it is not certain whether the Ukrainian combat drones are still available for engagement. Therefore, he sounded a caution to anyone thinking that the Ukrainian army would force the Russian military to retreat simply because they were procuring TB2 drones. Can the Russians still successfully invade Ukraine? Only time will tell how the war will end between the nations. However, so far, it is evident that the Russian invasion of Ukraine has not gone as expected. Before the war, the Russians were overwhelming favorites, but a combination of poor decision-making, underestimation of the Ukrainian army, and some superb intelligent moves by Ukraine has kept the Russians at bay. For example, the Russian army failed to wipe out the air force of Ukraine, including its drones, before rashly sending in troops. However, this decision could also be explained by the fact that Russia does not have the required dominance over Ukrainian airspace. According to Can Kasapogo, Director of Defense at EDAM, Russian aerospace forces do not have the required air supremacy over the Ukrainian airspace that can make it wipe out the Ukrainian Air Force before sending in troops. Moreover, the Russian force could strike down a significant number of Ukrainian air bases. However, they still have a number of operational runways and facilities, making things complicated for the Russians. So basically, the Ukrainian Air Force was not disrupted despite the Russian attacks. Did the Russians make mistakes that gave the Ukrainians an advantage over them? Research Institute, Robert Lee, the Russian army could have destroyed the TB2 drones at the onset of the war. Still, it could not because it appears that the Russian air support that escorted the ground forces was not ready to face the TB2 drones, which gave the Ukrainians an edge during the hostilities. In conclusion, it appears that the Ukrainians have been winning the battles, but only time can tell if they will be able to win the war. Do you think that deploying TB2 drones with a corresponding Turkish support gives the Ukrainian army an advantage over the Russians? Do you think this factor will play a decisive role in the war? We will be glad to hear from you on the comments section below. If you enjoyed watching this video, then leave a like and ensure to subscribe to this channel to watch more videos from military technology updates.